Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear. I've got another unboxing to do. This one's more of a unpouching. So I was out on a hike today and I was on my way home when I got a delivery notification, which is probably one of my favorite things to get because that means that there is a knife either in my mailbox or on my doorstep, and this is what I've been excited about. I was actually thinking about it today and kind of just drawing a little bit of a parallel. If you want to just see the knife, let's skip ahead like a minute. I'm gonna digress for a second. When I was starting out in car sales, actually before I started in car sales, I remember interviewing at a specific dealership. It was an Audi store, and it was one of the reputable ones here in LA. And I was interviewing with one of the sales managers there. It might have been the general sales manager. And I didn't really like the guy. I wasn't getting that good of a vibe from him. But I hadn't sold cars yet. It was going to be my first sales position. I didn't end up taking that job. I took a different car sales job at another dealership. But nonetheless, I was talking to this guy and he was asking me part of why I wanted to be in car sales. And one of the things that came out of my mouth was that I loved cars. I still do. I said I loved cars and I appreciated them for what they are. And I was like a student of the automotive sector. I loved learning more and more about cars. I loved driving cars. I loved working on cars. I loved the cars themselves. And I was a big fan of Audi at the time. I still love Audi automobiles. So as soon as that finished coming out of my mouth, he stopped me and he was like, let me tell you something. If you take this job and you start selling these cars, within just a couple of months, a year at the most, you will no longer have any appreciation for these cars. You're just going to look at them as part of your paycheck, just a unit to move, and that'll be that. You won't care at all about the cars. Doesn't matter which model Audi it is, doesn't matter if it's a base model A3, an R8, doesn't matter. You're not going to care anymore. I did not like that attitude, nor did I agree, and I'm stubborn. I ended up selling cars for years, and the more time that I spent selling cars, the more I appreciated cars, the more I learned about their intricacies and the things that made them special and unique. The things that I liked about cars became more and more apparent to me. My taste became more refined. Still increasing in that sector. So luckily he was wrong. But the reason why I tell that story and why I thought of all that was because lately I've been unboxing a lot of knives, probably more in the last, call it month, than I have ever before in a 1 month period of time, in terms of knives that I've bought for myself and opened up, or that I've traded for, or have been given to me for a giveaway, or I've had a lot of knives come in for a lot of reasons. I've had a couple that I've borrowed for the channel to review, to check out. Also, not just for the channel, but for me personally to check out. Like the Sebenza challenge. I borrowed that Sebenza. I've got 3 knives on loan from YD Knives right now to review. So I've been opening up a lot of knives. And I was just thinking to myself that I want to make sure that at no point in time do I ever get to a point like that sales manager, whatever position he was, like he warned about, where I'd start to not care about them anymore. Especially now that I'm YouTubing about knives and I'm using so many more knives, and I'm making a point to put a different knife in my pocket every day so that I have chances to have experiences with knives before I give my thoughts to you guys about them. And there's just so many more knives in my life right now that I wanted to commit to myself that I'm not going to be that guy who stops caring about the knives. So luckily, nowhere near that. That's not a struggle for me at this point. And I am super, super stoked for this knife. This is something that I've actually wanted for a while. The timeline is fuzzy. I don't remember when these started to come out, but I've got a buddy in a group chat on Instagram who's a big fan of CMF Metalworks, I think he's called. And the guy's name is Ian, who's behind CMF. He's a really cool knife designer, and he does really impressive things on his customs. His abilities to shape and form metal into knives are really something to kind of behold. Some of his stuff is a little more over the top than I like, but everything that I've ever seen come from him seems like he is displaying a lot of talent. And a little ways back, he did a collaboration piece with Alliance Designs. I've never owned a knife from Alliance. I've heard very good things, but this, to my knowledge, is the only production version of any of his knives that have been made thus far. So this is the Alliance Designs CMF, I think they call it the Conquest. I might be wrong, but I'm fairly certain. And this is my first time experiencing it with you, but it is a really cool design. I have drooled over this knife for a while. I know when they were first kind of like being pre-ordered, I saw, at least on, I think E-Knives had them and stuff, the pre-orders went like super fast. But I was just looking this knife up earlier today actually, and it looked like on the Alliance Designs website you could order this knife straight from them right now. So I don't know if they actually have some available, but that's cool if they do. I picked up this knife on the secondary, so I didn't buy this direct from a retailer or from Alliance. I got this knife independent. But let's give it a first flick. Woo, that was cool. Okay, so get past that detent ramp. This blade, as you can see, is a stabby little thing. I'm pretty sure the technical term for this blade shape is a trailing point. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what I've seen it referred to. If so, or either way, this is, I think, the only knife with this blade shape that I have ever had. It's cool. It's like a little bit upswept, although not really. The tip doesn't actually come like higher than the spine does elsewhere, but it's got this little bit like almost kind of a clip point. Yeah, a trailing point. So it's got like this radius slightly towards the tip, and then it's like all gradual belly, which if you've seen me review other knives with belly like this, you'll know that I'm a fan of gradual belly. I don't really like it when knives have like super abrupt belly where it curves too fast. I find that less usable than a knife with this type of shape where it's just a long gradual curve. So that looks really cool to me. This is a hollow grind, and it feels really thin to me behind the edge, especially down here towards the tip. It feels like it may get just a bit thicker. I don't know what the thickness behind the edge is, but this feels very thin to me with my finger measurement. The ergos are actually really nice. I was worried because how kind of angular this knife is and how harsh this point is. I was worried that it wasn't going to work so well in my hands, but this feels great. I really like that. I can kind of feel there's this spot right here on the clip where it's a bit kind of abrupt and like sharp. It's not like painfully sharp, but I can feel that there. I wouldn't even really call it a hot spot, but in my hand I can certainly feel the clip there just because it sits pretty proud and tall. And yeah, it's just that little corner there that I'm feeling. One thing that I really like is these 3 holes here are mirrored on the lock side as well, so you can actually see through those. I don't know if that'll possibly show on camera, but when I do a real first impressions video, you'll probably see that. I'm not positive who Alliance Designs is having make these. I would guess, just based on the feeling of this knife, that it's probably Riat, because it feels really dialed in. If it's a Wii, it's one of the nicer Wiis I've ever experienced. This feels really nice. It doesn't have a stainless steel insert. It's like a carbonized lock face, I think is the proper term for it. But it looks really nice. It locks up seemingly solid. It's a good amount of lockup. Hopefully that shows there. It looks really nice. Yeah, this is cool. These grinds and this blade shape really shine through in person. They're part of what I liked about this knife, having seen it in pictures, but now that I'm actually holding it, it is every bit as nice as I hoped it would be. I'm almost certain this one is an M390. I'm almost positive that that's the blade steel on here. It doesn't appear to be marked on it though, which I kind of like. I like when blades are fairly sterile. I don't like when there's a ton of lettering, or I guess I'm very selective about when I'm okay with that. This just has the CMF logo there, or maker's mark, and then the Alliance Designs maker mark on this side. Looks great. This one is the bronze finished one, I think. Although it might just be the acid like tumbled, because it doesn't look very bronze to me. I guess in certain lighting it does. I may try putting some Windex on it. I'm sure the guy before me handled this a lot, so it may just be kind of darkened from the oils. Yeah, I think it's the bronze one, because I'm pretty sure the bronze finished one is the only one where the clip stands out against it. All the rest of them, the clip is matched to the color of the knife. Yeah, this feels really good. I can tell if I have some pressure on the lock bar, then it's harder to flip the knife. But if I keep my fingers just kind of on the clip, then it's like, that is a sweet flipper. Lately I've found myself buying a lot more knives with either like spidey holes. I buy a lot of Spydercos in general, or with thumb studs. I've kind of gone away from flippers a little bit. And a lot of the flippers I have bought will also have a hole or studs, although holes are better than studs. Not mean. Anyway, I used to have a lot more flippers than I do now, like just flippers. And I feel like I kind of got like a little bit sick of them because it felt like it was all I ever had. But now I don't have that many flippers, now that I'm thinking about it. And this one is done really, really well. I like that a lot. Cool. Well, I won't bore you too much more with me just like inspecting this. This isn't meant to be like my full-on first impressions video. I'll do that once I've had this knife in pocket at least a little bit, carried it a bit, and give you some first impressions. And then ultimately there will be a full review on this guy. But this is the CMF, well, Alliance Designs CMF Conquest. I'm almost positive I have that name right. But yeah, here it is. And it is a sweet looking, very well finished knife.